All right. So today is the launch day of Daggerheart from Darrington Press and Critical Role. There's a lot of stuff coming out today, and if you're watching this, I appreciate you taking the time to do this because I know there's a lot of people who are streaming a lot of different things related to Daggerheart. So I thought one of the things that I've been mostly interested in with Daggerheart, many things, but one of them is Demiplane because Demiplane is a fantastic platform. I love how they have created their character tools and character sheets and all their digital tools, things like that. I use it for Candle Obscure all the time, so I was really excited to hear that they were going to do Daggerheart, and they're releasing some new features that is really cool that I thought I would show off to y'all. And there are some things down the pipeline that's going to be really helpful as well too. They're not officially released yet. I think they're working on it, but there are some things that they are hoping to release sometime soon that I think is going to be really helpful for online gameplay as well. So when you go to Demiplane, you'll see that, again, the art and everything is just gorgeous with this layout. As you go through, it allows you to just go straight in and to create characters, or you can go and check out the game rules. It shows off the different kinds of classes. You can't like scroll through this here. It just kind of shows you like, hey, here's some possible ones that you might want to check out. But it gives you a short little description, and then you can choose your class, which we can go ahead and do that here real quick. And you can look at the various details for each class that they have available here. If you play D&D or some other, tabletop role-playing games, a lot of this is going to be very familiar for you, like Bard, Druid, Rogue, Ranger, all those things. Guardian is very much like a protective barbarian is how I would describe it. They're somebody that they're like a very tanky creature or a tanky class, but with their subclass options, you can either pick features that kind of gives you a little bit of a boost for protecting other people, or you can get a boost that will help you protect people by attacking aggressively as well too. But Guardian, I'm a barbarian main, so Guardian is going to be one of my classes I'm always going to play whenever I play Daggerheart. Seraph is most akin to Paladin. Now, what's interesting about this is that I think between the two subclasses that you have available, there is one called a Winged Seraph that allows you to fly, and then I think the other one is, let's see here, is Divine Wielder. That's right. So this is something where you can get a legendary weapon and you can actually be a formidable foe on the battlefield. By the way, I can't help but notice that this image for Seraph looks a lot like what's his face, Joe Manganiello. I always mess up his last name, but I know they're good friends with him. He's been on the show before. I think this is like a little nod to him, to be honest, which is cool. Like as soon as I saw that artwork, I was like, that looks a lot like Joe. All right, so we got Seraph. Sorcerer, Warrior is pretty akin to Fighter class from D&D, and then Wizard. So a lot of these, if you played any sort of fantasy role-playing games, you'll probably be very familiar with what each of these do. And then there's some new ones that are just kind of more like reflavored a little bit, but reflavored really cool way. The other thing that's really interesting is that the spellcasting traits are traits that you can use depending on the different abilities as well too. That's not just limited to like the mental faculties as well. So for example, Ranger, if you look at their spellcasting trait is actually agility. Let me pull it up here. Well, yeah, see, agility. Okay, so I think that was really interesting how they did that. I know that there's been a lot of times where people just like, as a barbarian, I want to, cast spells by using Constitution or Strength or something like that. So really interesting way to kind of adjust it to be a little bit more accurate, not accurate, but, more in line with the different class. By the way, I just noticed this right here. I'm going to zoom in for you. I love the artwork in Critical Role and Darrington Press. All their stuff has been amazing, but I love the representation here of somebody using a prosthetic, and the prosthetic looks like it's probably some sort of tree form, which is, I think, is like probably a form of like maybe Clank as part of their ancestry or something like that, which is really interesting because my kid is wanting to play a Clank Simia character. So this will be a lot of fun to do and to show them with that. But I love the inclusiveness there and the representation that they have in their artwork. You see that, throughout all of their artwork that they have here. All right, so let's go back and look at more on the front page here. So we got create characters. It takes you to game rules as well. Okay, yeah, so we did choose your class. You can choose your domain that you want to pick from. So every class will have 2 domains that's already predetermined based on the class that you pick, but you have like a set of abilities that you can pick from either of those things. And domains, the best way I kind of describe it is that they're kind of like your specialty areas, and that's already determined by your class. And so, for example, Ranger is I believe Blade and Sage, if I remember correctly. And so they can tap into those domains to get special abilities as kind of focus in that area. So this is an example of Sage here, where it's a little bit more along the lines of nature. And so Druid is also a Sage domain that you can tap into as well if you play a Druid. But it kind of has that sort of like focus in terms of where your specialty lies in, or where like maybe your source of power or things like that. But they're just areas that you can really dig into that gives you special abilities based on your class. Now this is a new thing that I think is really exciting that Demiplane has included that I haven't seen in other games yet. And this is digital adversary environment support that game masters can use for their game. So this is something that I'm going to check out here for sure, and I'll kind of demonstrate what this is. And so this is something that would be really cool to have while you're playing your game, to be able to have their character sheet up, and you can use it to make rolls and track their hit points and their stress levels and things like that. So this is really cool. And the neat thing about this, it says it's fully editable, where you can tweak existing powers or mix and match abilities to surprise your players, which is something that in the core rule book for Daggerheart right here, they actually encourage game masters to be able to adjust on the fly and do those things to kind of keep your players on their feet. And just kind of do things that make sense for the story that you're telling and for the situation and stuff like that. So this is really cool that you're able to go in and make those edits. So so that is the Demiplane for the Nexus for Daggerheart. If you look at the character sheets, you'll see that I already have a few made here, and this is one that we have made for my kid for their character that they want to play. And they wanted to play a Clank Simia, and so we were able to create that. And it has an option for you to select mix ancestry, so that way you can pick the first trait from the ancestry and then the second trait from the other ancestry. And so we did that. So that part was like really easy to do. The character creation process for this was really straightforward. It was really helpful to be able to do that. I wish I had this when I was creating the character for my kid, because this kind of helped streamline things a little bit. We had to go back and forth with character creation on looking up things and stuff like that. So it took a little bit longer to do that. But this, I think I recreated this in like 5 minutes. So my guess is that creating the character would have been about 15 or so minutes, because everything was right there that you need when you're creating your character. But if you're familiar with Demiplane or even D&D Beyond, some of the people who worked for Demiplane were also the people that created D&D Beyond, so there's a lot of similarities between these two. The character sheet works, very similar to all those things that you are familiar with the other character sheets for other games that they have. I like that they have Bone and Sage here to tell you what your domains are, and they have an explanation when you click on it. Your agility, your strength. So if you want to make a roll, you just go ahead and tap that, and then you'll see I've already been playing with this already. But what it does is when you tap on it, it just gets it ready for you. And then if you have advantage, you can put in that, hey, I have advantage here. And then you can also, this is interesting, because agility is +2, automatically adds in my bonus there. But if I decide to use one of my experiences or one of my features, then I can mark a hope for that and then add in the bonus that I want as well too. So we go ahead and hit roll, and then it tells you I rolled a 23 with hope The only thing is it doesn't automatically add the hope in there, and it makes sense because there's probably some times where you have to like do a reroll or something happens or something like that, and so you just have to go in and manually add it there. But yeah, it's really nice for them to be able to like just get everything set up and then you add in all your bonuses before you roll, because that's one of the things that they put in the rules is that you have to make all those decisions before you roll. That's a little bit different than some other TTRPGs where you can make some decisions after you see the result and stuff like that. And I think there's some abilities that in Daggerheart that allows you to do some of that, but the foundational rule is that you have to make all these decisions on what things you want to add, like modifiers and stuff like that, before you actually roll. So it's not one of those things where you roll, you see you might be like a couple off, and then you want to retroactively add your experience or your feature or something like that. You have to make that determination before you actually roll. So they kind of set this up really nicely to emulate how you would play this in person. The other thing that's really cool, if you haven't heard about the sidecar feature that they created in Daggerheart, they created this handout that you can cut in half and then you put it on your character sheet and pull it out. And then it points out what each section means, and kind of gives you an explanation on, what does, your domain effects do and what does features do and stuff like that. And it lines up with the arrows. The arrows on the sheets lines up with the various sections on your character sheet. They have this as well. They have the show hints button. And when you click on it, boom, you got the sidecar feature right there. Really cool. Really love this idea. Demiplane has just done a fantastic job of taking the analogous, the physical version of this game and putting it into a digital version that emulates and simulates what you would get if you played in person. So very well done. So if you ever want a better idea of what some of these things do, you can always hit the hints button and it'll bring that information up. But you can also click on very specific things, like if you're like, oh, hand runes, I wonder what that's all about. It gives you some more information about that, and then you can add your own notes here. So if I want to flavor this and say hand runes are in the shape of an owlbear's paw, right? And I make that note. All right, I am going to click off of that, and then I go back in, and yeah, so you still see the note in there. The contrast is not great. I might put some feedback on there because I know for accessibility purposes, that's going to be really hard for people to read. This should really be in like white text or something like that. I don't think I'm like missing something here. Okay, so I can, and this is a nice thing as well too, is that you can flavor this however you want by overriding what's this called. So you can call this however you want. You can change the attack trait, all these different things. So if you need to make those changes, you can do that. But the notes and stuff like that are not here. So this is just overriding what's in there. If you have like some sort of like special, weapon that you get at your table, something like that. But yeah, the notes here, I'm probably going to give feedback on that. Really needs to have better contrast there. But yeah, so it gives you all your domain effects that you have chosen, all your features that you have. Interesting. I want to see. Okay, so when you hit focused, I wonder if anything else happens. Let's see anything else happen here. It looks like it's just showing that it's enabled, but I don't think there's anything else that kind of visually tells you any of that stuff. And then you get one hope. You spend a hope is what it's showing, I guess. There is like you spend a hope to do that. But then you get it says you get a +1 on your attack roll. Oh, this is interesting. Let me look at this here real quick. You know precisely what direction they're in. When you deal damage, they must mark a stress. Now, why is the attack a +1? That's the part I'm not quite sure if I understand what's going on here. That's going to tell me Ranger. So, hey, how you doing? Just looking up Daggerheart stuff here on Demiplane. Now, why is it giving a +1 here? This is the part I don't quite understand. Make an attack against a target on a success. You deal the attack normal damage and temporarily make the target your focus. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's saying +1 there. There's nothing in here that says +1. So I might have to give feedback on that as well, too, to say I'm a little confused on this part. Because I'm not sure why it's saying that, unless it's assuming that I'm using finesse, but you know, it also depends on what kind of attack you're making as well too. And none of my things are finesse. Instinct is a +1, so maybe that's what it's thinking here, is that it's using my primary one. I bet you that's what it is. It's using the primary one, so that way you don't have to like go up and do that. But I can use my secondary weapon to use this. So my day's going pretty good. Let's see here. Yeah, so let me look into that, because I don't think, in fact, hey, we don't guess, we look it up, right? So let's take a look here. Yeah, let's check out secondary weapons. We're going to go into equipment. And look it up here, because maybe it just defaults to your primary one, but you can attack with your secondary one. But I don't think there's any rules against attacking with your secondary. Like there's any rules on like how you need to use it and all that. So primary, secondary weapon. So let's go ahead and jump down there here real quick. So typically ancillary pieces of equipment that augment your character's fighting shields, such as shields, daggers, or small swords. If a character's primary weapon is one-handed, we recommend you also take a secondary weapon, but you can't hold your secondary weapon if you're a primary that requires two hands. Your character can only hold one secondary weapon at a time, which goes in the secondary weapon area on their character sheet. The list is starting, it's called hard, can be found in there. You can make attack rolls with either primary or secondary weapon your character has equipped, allowing for flexibility in types of attacks you can make. Many secondary weapons have features that augment another aspect of your character's fighting style. Dagger might grant them extra damage to targets they attack with their primary weapon with melee range, or a shield might add to your character's armor score. Most adventurers choose to carry at least a primary. Yeah. When you're using a weapon that you could theoretically throw, you can throw it at a target within very close, so you make an attack using finesse. On a success, deal damage as usual for that weapon. On thrown, you lose that weapon unless you retrieve it. You can't attack it with its features. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, okay. Yeah. So that's probably why. It's probably just defaulting to the primary one. And that's why he's putting it in there. So, anyways. Is Baldur's Gate 3 one of my favorite games, or is this your first playthrough? Well, currently I'm not playing through Baldur's Gate 3. We're looking at Daggerheart. But Baldur's Gate 3 is one of my favorite games, yes. Let's see here. And yeah, then you got information about your character, like Wildborn, you know, what you can do with that. Let's see here. Beastbound, because they took the Beastbound subclass. They have the section here called Companion that has their companion information here that they can use as well too. So, but yeah, they got different tabs here like equipment, so that way you can see what's on you. There's details that you can fill out, which we did not do that when we created their character specifically, at least these specific description details, because we wanted to get the other core ones down, but they'll fill that out later. And then there's a journal section where you can add different notes and stuff like that. So if I hit new entry, see, it's just like you can give it a title, and then it's just basically text-based, so it's not like Markdown or anything where you can stylize it by any means, but if you want to use it all right here, you can definitely do that. And then settings is, then you can actually, if you want to turn on beast form, which is a druid thing, you can turn that on manually. So you can go through and customize this a little bit. So if you know you're not going to use your journal, you can just turn that off here. So that's actually really cool and really great feature that they have here. And then just by default, because it knows that I have a beast, what's it called? I already forgot. Beastbound, thank you. I knew it wasn't Beastmaster, Beastbound. It automatically put on their companion for me as well. So, yeah, so that's the character sheets. This is really cool. I've always loved Demiplane. I think they have some really great stuff here. Did that take off because I used it? Ooh, I wonder. Let's see. So if I click that. Oh, no. Oh, interesting. I wonder why I took that off. Maybe when I hit roll. No. Okay. I must have just took it off and not realized it. So the graphics are pretty dope. Yeah. You're going to talk to me about graphics? because I think I know where this is going. All right. Da-da-da. So here's what the instructions, or I'm sorry, the core rulebook looks like. Is it has all the table contents over here. You can skip through each chapter here, but you can also like jump into the various sections within the core rulebook as well too. Now, the tools that they came out with for game masters. This is the thing I wanted to point out for everybody here because this is really cool. So you have a list of adversaries. So they have adversaries or monsters in D&D, enemies, things like that. They have a list here that you can choose from, and you can look through and peruse and stuff like that. So if you're building an encounter or something like that, and you want to see what they have in here, you can go through and just say, "Oh, this is something I want to check out," and it has it by tier, what kind of the type of adversary that they are, which they have like a whole description on these, which some of these are kind of like it makes sense, but it's going to take me a while to remember like what's the difference between like bruiser and skulk and all that, right? But let's say I'm like, oh, I want them to fight some skeletons here. I can just click that open and it gives me the information I need to run this, and just kind of look at it to begin with. So the attack feature is a +0, but they have a rusted sword that they need to attack in melee. They have 2 hit points and 1 stress. Threshold, so basically if they take 7, because they don't have more hit points than 2, it's like anything to 7 or more, they're going down. But if you want to learn more about this, you can hit details page, and it'll take you to that to give you some more information here. And then we can go back, and you can actually... it doesn't pull it back. You can open their sheet. Da-da-da. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then as the DM, I can roll this digitally here. Interesting. And then if I wanted to give them... No, this is like max on like how many they can get. So I can't customize this yet. I know they talked about customizing this, but you can't customize it yet, it looks like. You can add a feature if you want to add different features here that they already have, or you can add a custom feature. So that's a really cool thing, that if you want to add some of your own features or an existing one to kind of spruce it up a little bit, you can definitely do that. It doesn't look like I can... Let's see here. Let's see if I put in 3. See, it doesn't even allow me to put in 3. I can put in 2. All right, yeah. But that's what's really cool, is that you have like a little character sheet that you can open up here, and you can roll straight from here. So it's like, oh, they hit. So let's go ahead and roll the damage on this. And so the damage is going to be 2 because I rolled a 1. But that's really cool. I really like that. I love that they include that in here. When do I usually stream? Whenever I can. I don't have like a set schedule. My schedule is chaotic and crazy, so I just stream whenever I can. So, and then the other thing is environments. Now, a lot of people have been talking about how much they love the environment feature in Daggerheart. I think this is really cool. This is the way they organize it, I think, is a really interesting way to do this, because then you can have like a spot where you can look at all these things and figure out like, here's what's happening in this environment, and then how do you use that, or how do you utilize that, right? Other role-playing games do have things like environments where, depending on where they're at in the environment, things can happen to the characters, like just different things, but they usually break them up into like different sections of what's happening in the adventure. So like if they're in this area, then this is how the environment affects them and all that. With Daggerheart being a lot more fluid and flexible with how the story goes, it makes sense for them to kind of organize it into one sheet, so that way you're not locked down to, if they never go to this area, then you don't use this feature or whatever. You can always say, it's all focused by triggers, basically, right? So if you go through Abandoned Grove, you can see that this has a difficulty of 11, which I got to go through and figure out what that means. My guess is if they have to make a roll against it, that is the difficulty they have to pass. Here are some adversaries that you might find here. So this is very similar to like the monster manual and like the different environments that you'll find the monsters in. And then here are some features. So this will tell you that, this will happen if a PC makes an instinct roll to identify evidence on a fight. If they succeed on a hope, they learn all 3 pieces of information down here. Oh, Is it freezing up here? But then if they roll success on fear, they only learn 2, and then on failure, they have to mark a stress, which one of the things that I know for Daggerheart that I think is going to be a hurdle for some people, I know it is for me, is that figuring out what to add to the story or to the result based on how they roll. So a lot of times they say like, oh, you can have like a new adversary pop up, or you can have the mark of stress and stuff like that. One of the things I'm always worried about is, do I give out too many stress that ends up being detrimental and all that? And a lot of it's just going to be, based on experiences and stuff like that. So I am from the U.S. and let's see here. And then you have some other things here as well too. So this is an action. So you pick a point within the grove. Any target within very close range of that must succeed on agility action roll. So what I like about what they've done here in organizing it in a single space is that, again, you can throw this out wherever it makes sense in the story or whenever you want to drop it. But having it here, like if you want it to be where they go up against these 3 features and that's it while they're here, you can mark these off after you use them, right? And so you can, not in Demiplane necessarily, but this is just like if you print this out or have another way to write this out and all that, you could just like strike this out once you used it, and then that way you're not like doubling down on these things unless there's a reason why it needs to happen again for whatever reason. So but again, there's a details page on that. You can open up the sheet, which is very similar to what we saw in adversaries. And da-da-da. Da-da-da. Yeah, where are you from? Beasts. Bear. Spawn bear. Oh, this is cool. I like this already. So the way I would do this if I'm a GM is I would start with the environment first and then start populating the adversaries this way, because what I just did there in the sheet. All right, let me go ahead and we can go to Grove Guardians, but it gives you potential adversaries. So it gives you like different groups you can pick from. And then it gives you a list of adversaries that's on there. So let's do Minor Treant. And then you can spawn that creature, and then it gives you their character sheet for you to start running this. This is a badass feature. I do like this. This would be really good for games if you are doing something, improving this on the fly type of thing. This is a great way to pull in some additional adversaries without having to plan ahead of time, and you can really adapt to the situation there. So that is really cool. That is probably my favorite feature so far of all this I'm seeing here. This is fantastic. So this has all the information that we just saw earlier, but you can see here, again, like when we're doing this little thing, we can just go ahead and summon all these things here. We can do, let's see what happens when you hit summon. Does it just give you the whole adversary list? No, it looks like it's bringing up something specific here. Sylvan Soldier. Okay. So my guess is, because we got Young Dryad, we got 2 Sylvan Soldier, and a number of Minor Treants. See, this just says summon. It doesn't say the whole thing, but this says summon extra Treant. So, but this is really cool. And then you can add your own feature to this. I love this. I think this is probably the best feature that Demiplane has with Daggerheart. I think this is fantastic. I think this is really helpful. This is very well done. Good job, Demiplane. Virginia, awesome. Let me set up my Twitch channel. You're watching from Twitch right now. Can you explain what you mean by that? What's your pitch here? Just tell me your pitch. All right. But yeah, this is all fantastic. This is all the same stuff that we've seen in the other games that Demiplane hosts, but this is a new feature that I think this is really fantastic, that I can see them using this for the other games that they're running, like Pathfinder and Vampire the Masquerade, stuff like that. I think this is a really cool feature that they have. So this is awesome. Oh, great. Yeah, so this is Demiplane Daggerheart Nexus. Has a lot of great features here. A lot of great things to look through it. If you don't have a Demiplane account, I recommend getting one. It is for free. And you can make up to 6 characters for free as well. I think it's 6 characters total. I don't think it's 6 characters like per game. But I could be wrong on that. But I know 6 is the magic number. You can go in, you can make your own character. If you don't have access to Daggerheart core rulebook in Demiplane, then you're only going to have limited options to create your character with the like free rules that they have on there. So you can make characters, but you might be limited if you don't have the full access to the core rulebook. So you might want to buy that. Or if you're in a game with somebody else that also has Demiplane, has access to the core rulebook for Daggerheart, they can share that with you, and you can use that as well too, as long as they have those features for that as well. So I mean, I have layouts, I'm using all those things. Like, am I not using emotes and alerts and stuff like that? No. Why? Because I just don't have an interest or anything like that. Go ahead, give me your pitch. This happens all the time. You're asking these questions, see if you can kind of get, get a entry point in here. Are you going to offer like services to add a banner and all that, and emotes and everything? All right. But yeah, this is fantastic. I'm absolutely loving this. I think Demiplane has done a great job with this. Fantastic. Good job. Dun-dun. Cool. Okay. All right. Well, that is going to be it for me. I just wanted to check out the tools that Demiplane has released. I think this is fantastic. I think this is going to be really helpful for GMs, whether they're doing this online or in person. I use Demiplane a lot when I play Candela Obscura. Now, I use it as a player in Candela Obscura. I haven't used it as a GM, but I think GMs would use this in the in-person games when they pull up their computer and pull up this website or pull up Demiplane. Now, once Demiplane gets like a app, like a formal app, I think that's going to be a game changer for them as well. Technically, you can save the website onto your device as like a web app. It's not the same. It just pulls up the website essentially. But I think if they develop an app that makes this quicker and streamlines this a little bit more, I think it's going to be really, really helpful. I think it's going to be a great tool for them to use. So awesome. Well, thank you all very much for joining me. Ameli, thank you for watching and talking to me here. If you have a pitch that you're trying to sell me here, go ahead and let me know what it is, and we'll talk about it. But yeah, so thank you all very much. Very excited for Daggerheart. Have a great day.